Chapter 6 is called Trouble at the School. Ha 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 ha! It was 2 weeks after their disastrous arrival at the Flashburn School of Scorp Fighting. There had been no sign of road dragons chanting the Red Rage or the Dragon Furious. The warriors-to-be from tribes all across the archipelago had gathered in the battle arena to watch Fishlegs' practice bout against Lord Tommy Lowwart. The laughing young warriors-to-be were surrounding the fight, and they appeared to be finding it amusing. Watching Fishlegs fight was always the highlight of their day. Lord Tommy Lowwart was not a good sword fighter. He was as round as he was high, and so stupid he had been known to attack his own arm. Oh dear. But Fishlegs had a severe disadvantage. Horrorcow was still sitting on top of Fishlegs' shoulders, her talons gripped into his hair. Her nervous collapse was such that even now that the danger had passed, she still refused to eat, sleep or come down, despite Hiccup tempting her with bits of cucumber and carrot. She just sat on Fishlegs' head and blinking. Poor Horrorcow, her tail hanging limply. "I'm so sorry," she mooed apologetically when Hiccup begged her to let go. "I just can't." And if there was a loud noise, she clenched her claws, winding Fishlegs' hair round so painfully that he screamed like a hyena. As you can imagine, none of this improves Fishlegs' sword fighting. I'm not surprised. Take it from me, it's extremely difficult to sword fight effectively when you have a dragon attached to your head. It throws off your balance. Although opponents did find Fishlegs' sudden, inexplicably screaming off-putting. Plus, Hiccup had thrown Fishlegs' best sword into the gorge, so Fishlegs was having to fight with his spare sword, which he affectionately called Mr. Pointy. Fishlegs had no parents to give him expensive sword-fighting equipment. Fishlegs had found Mr. Pointy on the scrap heap at the blacksmith's, so it wasn't really in battle-worthy condition, having a tendency to wobble a little and rattle in its hilt when attacking. Oh dear. Fishlegs was quite a sight, therefore, stumbling around Lord Tommy Lowwart, trying to defend himself with the wobbly Mr. Pointy, while the dragon attached to his head squirmed and squealed in alarm and tried to get as far away as she could from the swords. There was a nasty moment when Horrorcow became so alarmed that she actually put her paws over his eyes. Oh dear, poor Fishlegs. So that Fishlegs could not see Lord Tommy's lunges. "Horrorcow, I can't see," yelled Fishlegs. "I'm so sorry," mooed Horrorcow, "but it's all so violent and aggressive. Can we not do something nice?" And then, as if things couldn't get any worse, halfway through the fight, Mr. Pointy's blade fell out, leaving poor Fishlegs with only the hilt in his hand. "Ha ha 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 ha!" roared the crowd of watching warriors-to-be. "A collapsible blade! Let's see whether we can take that dragon off your head for you, shall we?" sneered Snotlout, flexing his fist and punching it into his hand. Poor, traumatised Horrorcow gave a yowl. "No violence, I'm a vegetarian!" Ha 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 ha! The crowd of warriors-to-be closed in on Fishlegs, and all might not have gone well with him if... "Look out!" yelled Hiccup from above, landing the Windwalker right beside Fishlegs, sending Snotlout and Dog's Breath spinning into the dirt. Fishlegs scrambled onto the Windwalker's back, and they took off. "Yeah, look, it's that Hiccup who released the Dragon Furious, coming to the rescue of his weird friend!" shouted Snotlout. "Weirdos!" yelled one Grimbod. "Freaks!" shouted Very Vicious the Busy Thug. A minute later, the two boys were sitting with their friend Kamikaze on top of the second to the left tower, having a little breather from the sword fighting practice. They were all wearing green sword fighting belts. Toothless was playing with Kamikaze's hunting dragon Stormfly, and One Eye the saber-toothed dragon, an old friend of Hiccup's, was sitting beside them on the battlements. There they all are. "Thanks," said Fishlegs. "I had that situation under control, but thanks anyway." "Don't mention it," said Hiccup. "They're going to kill us when they catch us," said Fishlegs. "Well, I'm not exactly the most popular person around here at this moment, so I don't care," said Hiccup. It was true. Ever since it had been revealed that Hiccup freed the Dragon Furious, the warriors-to-be had stopped speaking to him. It was as if he was cursed. Hiccup noticed that even the adult warriors gave him a wide berth when he approached, getting as far away from him as physically possible, as if he had some kind of dreadful catching disease. It was a little depressing. So what with one thing and another, Hiccup and Fishlegs and Kamikaze were spending quite a lot of time keeping out of everyone's way up there on the second to the left tower. They had a great view of the fighting, leaning over the battlements, peacefully chatting. "This is not good," said Fishlegs to Hiccup. "Alvin seems to have got really, really good at sword fighting." They squinted down at the battle arena where hundreds of the tribesmen were practicing their sword fighting in battle bouts. Alvin the Treacherous was practicing against Giant Grim. Giant Grim was a magnificent sword fighter, a Flashmaster bronze belt, and a contender to win the whole competition, but Alvin was doing surprisingly well against him. Just when they first met him a couple of years earlier, Alvin wasn't all that good at sword fighting, but he must have been practicing hard, and he'd really bulked up in the muscle department. One-Eye the saber-toothed dragon opened his one eye. "If the horrible human with hooks becomes king of everything, anything," he said, "I, for one, will be instantly joining the Dragon Rebellion." "I don't know why you haven't joined it already," purred Stormfly naughtily, "being such a revolutionary and everything." "I've a bad leg," said One-Eye with dignity. "I think it's because he's fond of Hiccup, actually." "I could beat the lot of them," said Kamikaze, spiritedly making lunges with her sword against imaginary opponents, "but I'm a bit concerned about my foot." Kamikaze had had the misfortune to put on her boot 2 days earlier, only to find a sea urchin had mysteriously found its way into its toe. So she'd managed to get the prickles out, but it was still limping badly. "It's that witch," said Fishlegs. "I know it is. Sea urchins don't throw themselves out of the sea and put themselves into the boots all on their own. It's the witch. The witch must have put it there. She wants Alvin to win this sword fighting contest and be the king of the Wild West, and she's going to try and get rid of everyone who's a good sword fighter and might get in his way." It was true. Odd things had been happening to the good sword fighters all week. "Remember," said Fishlegs, Helly Thickarm sprained her sword arm in an arm wrestling competition with an outcast. "And my mother's lucky sword has disappeared," said Kamikaze. "She doesn't fight half as well without her lucky sword." Mogadon the meathead developed a stomach complaint that had him rolling around and itching. "He's eaten something that disagrees with him," said the witch. "My pink medicine should make him better." "I wouldn't take her pink medicine," but the pink medicine made him worse. It was all looking very suspicious. The three heroes squinted down at the battle arena. Watching all of these fights was the crooked figure of the brown-cloaked witch, sitting smoking a pipe in the doorway of her fortune-telling hut. The fortune-telling hut was a sinister little dwelling, squatting behind the battle arena like an ugly little gnome. The witch had set up shops there. It had a sign outside saying, "Fortunes told, futures improved," written in wobbly capital letters. People had been visiting the hut all week to have their fortune told and to get a home-baked fortune cookie. Everyone who visited the hut came swaggering out, looking very pleased with themselves. Hiccup suspected the witch was telling them all they were going to be the king of the Wild West. "Oh, ooh," sighed Toothless, sniffing the air. "Those cookies smell yummy." Dragons have an extraordinary sense of smell, and he could smell the lovely aroma of freshly baked cookies wafting up from that horrible little hut, even from all the way up at the top of the tower. The witch seemed to sense they were watching her, and maybe she wasn't so blind after all, for her head tipped upwards and she looked straight at them. Instinctively, all three of them ducked behind the battlements, 3 pairs of eyes just peering over the edge. The witch cackled and removed her pipe. "He's doing well, my Alvin, isn't he?" she called up to them. "He's got a good chance of being champion of champions, don't you think? Come and try my cookies sometime, duckies, and maybe I can improve your fortunes too." She jammed her pipe back in her mouth, went back to watching the fighting. "This is not good," said Fishlegs. "We can't let Alvin become the next king of the Wild West. Who are we going to find is good enough to beat Alvin?" "Flashburn!" cried Kamikaze excitedly. "He's the perfect hero." "Yes, but he's completely disappeared," Fishlegs reminded her. "Again, I bet you it's that horrible witch. What could she possibly have done with Flashburn and all those Red Tiger warriors?" "Do you think," Fishlegs paused and swallowed hard, "do you think the witch could have killed them?" "She looks nasty enough for anything," admitted Hiccup. He hoped it wasn't true, but what on earth could she have done with them otherwise? "I think you should win the competition then," Hiccup said to Kamikaze. "After all, you've got the king's things, and Grimbear's second best sword, and everything." Hiccup sighed. "I'm okay at sword fighting, but I'm way smaller than everyone else, and given that nobody's even talking to me right now, I don't think they're going to want me to be the king of the Wild West. We just have to find someone else to win and be the king, and then we can give them the things." "Wonder what's so important about this sword anyway," Hiccup wondered. "Why is this sword important?" Why did old Wrinkly say the sword points the way? And why were those red rage dragons so keen to get hold of it? Hiccup's thought the endeavour was rather dull and uninspiring to look at, but the sword had a secret. Hiccup had discovered the secret years ago when he first found the sword. If you twisted it and twisted it, the knob at the end of the sword fell off to reveal a hidden compartment. There was a will inside, signed by Grim the Ghastly himself, saying that this was his second best sword and he left it to his true heir. Hiccup unscrewed the secret compartment now and took out the piece of paper and reread it for the 100th time. It says, that's the sword, and you see the end. You unscrew it, and inside is this roll of paper that is the last will and testament of Grimbeard the Ghastly. But it still gave no clue as to why it was so important to the Red Rage Dragons. Nothing about rebellions or Kings of the Wild West or anything helpful like that. I'll have the next bit tomorrow.